eco-villages, master units, community networking, and shared gardens. Presented by Radha Cohen. Please like this video and subscribe. This is ConsciousEarthAlliance.com.
This conference is about how to build communities on the land at time of crisis. However, which we call safe zone. However, there are many different ways of doing it. There is not only one way. And what we came up with is that we identified 3 ways. And one is what everyone knows, which is the big eco-villages, the communities, and what we call master units that I will specify later on. However, this is not the only way, because not everyone can afford to buy land, can afford to make such big projects. So a type of safe zone and another way of building community on the land is many rural families living in various villages, in the same villages or in the same valley, is getting together and start networking together. This is also a way of building sustainable community. Another way that we identified, which is really a phenomenon at the moment, and it has been for the past 10, 20 years really, are the common gardens in city that we will look briefly, very briefly at the end. But it's also something very interesting to look at. So I will start with eco-villages, communities, and master units, which really what it means is that they are intentional rural projects where the land is locally owned under many different forms of ownership. And it is consciously designed through participatory processes to regenerate our way of living, our culture, and our environment. So the first one I want to start with is Crystal Water Eco-Village in Australia. It's an amazing community that started in the 80s. And it has 230 families. And why it's important is because it has been designed totally under permaculture principles. It's very successful. And it has locally, personally owned land, private land, but it has a lot of common land at the same time. And it has cooperatives. For example, the business of the restaurant, the business of the bakery, the business of the cafe, and many other businesses within the community are all under cooperatives, and the people share the profit. Another important thing to say about this eco-village, the way it started, is that at that time in the 80s, there was a cooperative bank in Malini, in this part of Australia, which was the first one in Australia, and it started to give out loans to people to buy their lots in this eco-village, and that's how it started, and it's one of the most successful. A second one is Findhorn, Scotland, which everyone knows because it's one of the most famous in the world, and especially in Europe, that started as a small organic garden, and then it expanded a lot, and now it has a biodynamic farm. It hosts permaculture projects, biomass heating, houses made with straw bales, and lots of courses and workshops. And it also has a special shop where it's always open during the whole year, and everyone can give or take whatever they need, from a dress to a work tool. Another community that I really love to mention is Bandagen from Bellingen in Coffs Harbour, also Australia. Why this community is important is the way it started. This is a beautiful area of pristine forest on the sea or very nearby the sea. And there were developers coming from Japan that they wanted to buy the whole area to make it into a tourist resort with hotels and streets and everything. And the local environmentalists got together and they bought the land first. And they made this amazing community, which is divided in 12 villages. Altogether, there are 180 families with lots of children, and on top of that, many children. The environmentalists bought the land, they created these amazing villages. And the other important things to say here is that they started to build the very aesthetic houses like never seen before, with random earth, mud, etc. Not only, but they created all this new system of reusing, recycling the sewage, like for example, new system for gray water, new system for black water, etc. And what happened when the people from the council came to see all these houses and the way they were structured, they were surprised because they were not matching any type of council regulations. But because they saw that everything was actually working so well and made sense, and everything was recycled and beautiful, with beautiful gardens and fruit trees, etc., they actually created and passed new rules, new council rules, then helped all the other communities and the whole movement of ecological communities in Australia to actually expand and grow, thanks to these guys that practically they were one of the first to start. I want to briefly mention also the village of the elves in the Apennine of Italy, because it's quite different. What they did actually, they went to occupy all these villages, these shepherds' villages on the mountains that no one was using. And that happened also in the 80s. So it's like a community that is 40 years old. And they live in a very primitive way, in the sense that they have no electricity, there is no cars, they walk. They are also divided in 18 villages, and they sometimes one village to the other one is 1 hour walk through the hills. They live in a very simple ways, and they work all together, and and they also collect, for example, their money, whatever money they need, they collect it among all the villagers in a very simple way, like means according to what you want, you give. And they say that this really works for them because it promotes sharing. They have amazing festivals. Anyone can visit them throughout the festival of seeding and the festival of harvesting. And they have hundreds of guests at that time. Okay, and then the next is for you to understand master unit. Master unit is not necessarily an eco-village. It's a little bit different. What it really means, it's a special land that needs to be away from the sea, at least on the hills from 300 to 800 meters high, but not higher than that. And really, master unit has been identified as a system, a model system to create new seeds of life on the planet. The primary requisite is the provision of minimum requirements of food, clothing, housing, education, and medical treatment for the people that live there, but also doing service to the whole surrounding community. And the first one I want to look at is the Ananda Kalyani in Portugal, which is a self-sufficient zone based on all-round service that inspires and offers a balanced, healthy, and proactive lifestyle. This master unit is becoming the nerve center of the whole surrounding local community, demonstrating new technology for environmental sustainability, providing guidelines also for spiritual elevation, because this is another specific aspect of a master unit, that the ecology needs to be balanced with spiritual elevation. And here are all the activities. As you can see, it's very lots of veggie gardens in this type of greenhouses. They have many greenhouses. They work together. They have many fruits trees, and they have a very, very alive community life. And they work very hard, as well as many young families staying there. And they also attract visitors and travelers from all over the world. They come to learn and to work together. And also to learn spiritual practices like yoga, music, meditation, and meditation dancing. They also give a lot of importance to cooperate together, to cooperation, and they work, the people that live there on a long term, they really work together, and they put a lot of emphasis on collective decision-making processes. And another master unit that really I like to show is Ananda Putabhumi in Poland. Very special land, a very beautiful land. Ananda Putabhumi means the place of pure thoughts, and it has a very special vibration. The emphasis is in spiritual upliftment of the people through the study and practice of spiritual science, yoga, and meditation. One of the main approach here is the spiritual ecology, maintaining ecological balance and spiritual elevation. There is a plenty of fresh produce. They work very hard, and it promotes integrated farming and is oriented towards self-reliance and maximum production, as you can see. These people really work a lot. They are completely off-grid with on water and energy with solar system and biogas system. There are irrigation systems with dams, ponds with pisciculture for water conservation and apiculture. And it's very beautiful. It has a seed banks, biofertilizers production, cheap seed distribution centers, and also plants and seedlings distribution centers. It does also one of the most difficult things to have, because it's a lot of work, which is a dairy farm and the dairy produce. Not only, but it's an ideal farm training center to help other projects becoming self-reliant. And they have a very, like the cows for them are like their pets. And the cows, they listen to kirtan, which is a spiritual music wherever they are. And they're very blissful animals. They promote cottage industries oriented towards a self-made production like cheese, tofu, and honey, and ice cream. With this, they do cooking courses with their own produce, amazing cooking courses, as well as small cottage industries, for example, pasta making is one of them. This one is with their own cereals and spinach, and this one with cereals and their own pumpkins. They have a small bakery, and people come from all over the villages around to buy this produce, as well as they make their own apple cider vinegar and of course sell it. And because they grow berries, they have a berry jam production as well. Now, another aspect that is very important in a master unit is to promote local cooperatives for agricultural research and development to discover new ways to utilize and prolong the vitality of the land. One thing that these master units don't have is a school. However, I want to show one of the most successful schools in a master unit of Ananda Kamala in Australia. And the school is called the River School. It has more than 200 children, and amazing. Like they did so much service for 40 years to the whole society surrounding them. So many villages, so many valleys that actually send their children to this school, where really real education leads to a pervasive sense of love and compassion for the whole creation. Now, going to the number 2 type of building and thriving communities on the land, as I said before, it's really, even if you live in your own rural house as a family, you can actually learn to network and connecting with other people and sharing your produce. And this is happening in many places all over the world. I've been in Australia, I've been in Europe, and I heard other places in USA. And this is actually happening. Like if you see here, they choose a place once a week. They go to that place and they share their produce, they share their ideas, they become friends and they support each other. Not only, but they also create groups like this one, where after they go and they share their work in each other's properties. In this way, in Australia, we planted thousands of trees because people were getting together, like 30 people, 50 people, going to one properties and just planting trees or doing whatever was needed in the garden to help to maintain the properties. And this was shared all along around the year. This is something that I took from the valley where I live now in Italy, because I really believe that many places in the hills and in the mountains, people are not very far away from going back to live a very sustainable life because they have everything. They produce so many things in the garden, as well as cheeses and all sorts of foods, really, including pasta, etc. And not only, but they have a structure in the village where they have, for example, water where they can go and wash their clothes together. It's still there. Everything is still intact. And believe it or not, many of these fountains, they are pure water from the ground. And the last one, but not the least one, is building community in the city through common garden. And this is the pictures I took in Milano just recently. It's amazing. And common gardens in Bologna. Not only people living in the apartments, they have the possibility of going out in the open air, but also they have a lot of produce. They make friendship, they meet each other, and they have sunshine on top of everything. And this is common gardens in London, in Berlin, and in Rome. And one thing very interesting, if you see in the common garden in Berlin, they have a stage for music. And I saw the same thing in Milan, where there was a stage of music at the back of the common gardens, very big area. And from March to October, every morning at sunrise, they have a concert of classical music. And I asked who comes, and they say we have between 100 to 200 people every morning because they come jogging or doing exercise, and then they attend the concert, the classical music concert. So this is another way of building support and alliance and communities. Okay, so thank you. We will have a moment of we will have a few moments. If you have any questions, maybe we can have it now, because I actually still have 3 minutes.
There's one question, if I may, from Jill Wengler. First was about the name of the master unit in Portugal. So I said Ananda Valley, if I'm not mistaken.
It has 2 names. It is called Ananda Kalyani originally, which is a Sanskrit name. And Kalyani means that one that really shares the welfare with all humanity, that does the thing and actions for the welfare of all humanity. But then, because not everybody understands the meaning, it has been changed to Ananda Valley because it's a beautiful valley.
It is indeed. I went there. The other question from Jill Wangler is, may I ask how you define pure thoughts?
pure thought. This is very interesting. Yes, sure. This is exactly about Ananda Putta Bhumis. Sorry. Pure thought. When you do meditation, you are not thinking from the level of, from a mental level. There is like you are in ideation. So what we call in yoga ideation is the pure thought, which is beyond the thought, really. Pure thought is beyond thought. Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
How many
Yeah,
eco-village or master units have you been involved in or started or developed?
sure. I started a very interesting one in Malaysia. That was my work at that time. And because when I arrived, there was nothing. We had only wild pigs there. And then I started with a children home, because in that area there were Indian villages, and many girls, they were harassed in the Indian villages because there were a situation of many orphans. And so some of the girls, which still had a mother, they didn't have a father, but they had a mother. And the mother asked me if I could actually follow them up during the week with schoolwork, etc. And so I started this children home. And after that, I started a small school, also like a day school for all children, not only orphan children, for all children. But after that, I moved, because I moved to the Philippines, and this master unit continued its progress. And now it's amazing because it has a huge children home, and it also has a home for elderly people. So they combined the life of children with the life of elderly people, and it works so well, and it became one of the most successful projects even now.
Wonderful.
And this is actually something that is happening in Catania as well, here in Sicily, in Italy, where one of our whole time the volunteers, it's really now having this type of after school for children who are on the street, in order not to allow them to be taken by the mafia. And so he really occupies the children with many activities, and they are really amazing. And at the same time, now he's also building a place for old people, because there are many old people that have no housing or not proper condition of living. And so he's actually building that at the same time, and the gay making this combination of children and older people.
A
Okay.
question on the master units in the Netherlands, and another question is, what is your future project, Radha?
I don't think there are master unit in Netherlands, unless I mistake. Maybe Madhavi can correct me. And my future project is that as a group of women here in Italy, we are now looking for starting another master unit on the hills, on the mountains of central Italy, between Bologna, Firenze, and Pistoia, just really in the middle. And it's an amazing place. So, but what is really incredible is this: when we go and look for land, you see so many young people that already left the city, and they're already living there, either in community or other making their own rural projects. It's amazing. And people meet each other in the towns, and it's incredible, the level of exchange and the level of support that they are giving to one another. So we chose that area, and it's very promising. And so I hope by next year we will have something